This is Matthew, author, artist, and commentator. I run luminousbeings.blog, where you can find all my articles, stories, drawings, and podcasts. So I'm here to wrap up the Kamen Rider Ex-Aid, Another Ending trilogy with Genm vs. Lazer. I could talk about this for a long time. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Anyway, in the middle of the last episode, I was asking myself about whether or not this all three movies had the same writer. And yes, they do all have the same writer, and it is none other than Yuya Takahashi, who is the head writer for the series Kamen Rider Ex-Aid. So that's interesting. Interestingly enough, pictured here on the video version of the podcast is... or never mind, this isn't a podcast. I'm too confused. Ignore that, okay? Is none other than Emu, who is the main character of Kamen Rider Ex-Aid. It's, he's the eponymous guy. And I'm really excited by the fact that he is injured and in bed and not used for most of the movie, because I think that makes for a more interesting movie, series, entry, even like an episode. Every now and then I want there to be episodes of a show where the eponymous hero is not the one who is the star. I think it's only fair at this point to bring up spoilers for Ex-Aid and say that what happened in Ex-Aid was that the show, which had up until that point very much followed all the video game logic rules, broke its own rules and prevented the Genius Gamer Nico Saiba, from defeating the big bad who features in this movie, Kronos. She should have been the one to beat Kronos, but because the show... Well, I don't know why, but the show went against that and didn't do that. Probably because... Well, I'm going to chalk it up to the fact that if there's an eponymous hero of the show, they've got to be the one who's the victor. And guess what? Emu just happened to be the one who was the big victor in the end and defeated Kronos. And now I loved it. I thought it was beautiful, and it really made a lot of sense. Or it didn't make a lot of sense, but the emotionality of it, I was totally into. It didn't make sense. It went against the logic of the show, like I said already, but I'm not going to feed that fed horse, so I'm going to stop on that real quick. Moving on from there. So we've got one of the, I don't know if you'd call this an NPC or a villain, like just an enemy incarnation or whatever, but we've got, this Genm, which is a zombie Genm that's not actually Kuroto Dan himself, the new god as he wants to be called. Anyway, so I love this guy's design. It's just such a great suit. There's so much good about it. I think it's really disturbing that this guy's obsessed with the zombie thing, although I guess with what they go into, his backstory with his mom and everything dying, and his frustration with the medical community, it really does make sense as to why the character is the way he is. Speaking of characters who are the way they are, we've got Pallid and Poppy here, and what I liked about their job in this movie was that while they didn't do too much to move the plot forward, I would say, they did a decent job of serving their role. And I almost, like I said before in the Poppy Pallid coverage, I almost like their involvement in this stuff better. Poppy isn't actively fighting, but she's Asuna right now, and Asuna's all about being a good doctor or a good nurse and helping save the patients. And Pallid says his heart is seething, and so he's internalized that growth from the last movie, and he's using that, and he's protecting people. He's doing the right thing. He's angry. He's not hateful necessarily, but he's angry, and he's going to act to protect the people on whose behalf he's angry, I guess. And then you've got Dan again here. I noticed, I think his hair was different towards the end of the series proper, and maybe even in the true ending movie. When his hairstyle changes, it seems to signify that he's a little bit of a different person, or it's a different aspect of his persona showing. And I'm pretty sure, along with being the snooty butler game master type person he is incarnating here, that's all part of his beginning of the series guy or persona, where he wanted to project this legitimacy or this veneer that covered over all the darkness and all his wicked intentions. So And I'm not actually bothered by this. I took this screen grab because I thought it was funny that looks like a big crowd until you realize that they're in an enclosed area, and either like they could have gotten more extras, or that was a clever way to do things. I'm not really sure where I fall on it. It's just an interesting observation. Like behind the scenes, like they picked that place and filled it with those people so it would look crowded, but it wouldn't look empty because there's not too much empty space behind them. And if it was a bigger place or an open street or something, you'd be able to tell. And then I just think it's really funny that Lazer ends up riding the Lazer bike. And it was like really sad after, again, spoilers, in the series he had died, and Emu was still riding his bike every now and then. And that bike had the blank eyes on it, as opposed to when Lazer was actually in the bike. And I don't know if this bike has blank eyes or not. I can't remember. And I don't remember them getting a good angle on it. So I'm not really sure about that. I don't know when was the last time I mentioned this, but I'm vehemently anti-war, and I join, not like protests in the streets or anything, but like calls to, drive people to, like, I reach out to people who I know. I'm like AG, anybody who's within my reach that I have any influence on. I'm going to try to influence them to be anti-war. And this point here is interesting to me because Hiro's obviously thinking that Taiga has suggested that they kill Dan. And that's not his intention at all. Taiga wants to play the game to save as many people as possible, which really, in the long run, makes the most sense and is kind of the most logical way to handle this game besides defeating or killing Dan. And I don't really see a problem with it. I guess I should say Kuroto, because they're all the Dan family. But like, anyway, it's complicated, but like, yeah, why not kill him? But I like where the movie went overall. I'm totally cool with them, like, focusing on redemption and stuff. Anyway, time to talk about our girl Nico. I really love the idea that she's the owner of the company of Genm Corp. I know she kind of cedes it over to the other guy, but I think she has still stock and like majority shares or whatever. But it's really cool. I love that it shows the like really close relationship between her and Taiga. And again, like, I don't care if they end up being a couple at some point in the future. I'm not against it. I think it would be fine. I'm not for it either. I'm ambivalent. Obviously, I could have just saved a bunch of time and said I'm ambivalent. But I really like that they're close enough and friendly enough. And like she's his partner. They're partners. And because of that, she wanted him to have an awesome, extra weapon to pull out in times of crisis in the future. Probably because she knows, like us, that the game is never over. So, I can't remember Sensei's name here, but so I'm just going to call her Sensei like everybody else in the movie did. But I really do like her redemption arc. What she wanted, what her goals were, her reasons for working with Kuroto Den were very well-intentioned. I don't know if I'd say edging on noble, because she was super abusive to Pallid and Poppy when she thought they were viruses and nothing more, and she couldn't recognize the personhood of these other individuals. But she's brought low here to the point where she feels like she can die or doesn't mind being killed or whatever, turn into a zombie by this guy. She probably doesn't even know what the deal is. I doubt she's paying attention to the rules of the game, but she's willing to not make it that sacrifice, but like to let go. And I think it's interesting that being at that low point of wanting to die or being willing to die is kind of the key to her changing, which is, I never really thought about that. They say that, like knowing that you know nothing is the start of knowledge, and almost like morally, her being so bereft of everything, or that doesn't make sense, bereft of everything. Her being at such a low place, so humbled, means that she recognizes that she was so wrong, and she is contrite and brokenhearted. Wow, I'm sorry. Bible. It's infected my brain, so to speak. So like she's so contrite and brokenhearted that she is brought low and humbled and ready to rise again. And I think that's really cool. There is no shame in my game, folks, so I'm going to admit to you now that one of the things I love most about Kamen Rider, besides all that deep emotional stuff I was just talking about, is this, that the riders will hit people with their bikes. I'm not sure why it makes me so happy. I watched Black first. I don't think maybe he hit like one person with his bike, but Battle Hopper was so cool. Well, I don't want to get on a Battle Hopper tangent. Anyway, I just thought it was really cool that, like, I think at this point he knows, oh gosh, I can't remember his name. Lazer knows that Genm isn't that's not the real Genm, but he just decides to whack him with the bike anyway. Like he'd hit the real Genm with a bike any day. But there's a great excuse for him to do it here to save this lady, or to save the doctor, to save Sensei. And I just really appreciate it because I love the idea of like, you got this motorcycle, hit somebody with it. It's too bad. As much as the problems I have with Drive, I wish he would have hit somebody with a car. That would have been cool. And I want to watch more Black RX and see if he ever hits anybody with Rider on. Oh, sorry. I'm enjoying this too much. Loving people getting hit by vehicles is one of the great parts of fantasy media. Like, I don't like uber violent stuff, but, man, seeing stuff like this really tickles me. Kiriya is so cool. I loved him in X8 proper. There's just so much good about him. He's a liar who uses his lies to make peace. Again, there's this whole thing about Aaron, the brother of Moses and Miriam. They say that, anyway, there's just legends about him where he would talk to old friends or a spouse, a couple who's having tough times, and he'd be like, hey, so-and-so said something good about you. Oh, hey, I just saw somebody, and they were like, raving about how great you are or whatever. And the people would make amends. And then like the fact that only a liar could do the things he did later was really cool. And even here, he's kind of lying because he's faking out Sensei, and he acts like he's gonna hit her, and he's like, oh, I won't be satisfied till I get a punch in, and he puts her badge back on her, and he's like, Ev that Kuroto Dan, hey. And then he's telling her this, like, look, if you value your father's work, and you really loved him, don't give up, because he didn't give up, and you can redeem everything. Like, you can keep moving forward, making these positive changes, and that's really cool. And because the guy's been through so much, it's really nice to see him. Again, like, does she deserve to be killed? Maybe. I was talking about, killing Dan possibly, and that being me being morally okay with that. Maybe. But like, redemption is ultimately the thing you want to go for, if you can. And it's just really hard. It takes so much strength and so much discipline, and like the right tactic to redeem somebody else. You have to bring them to the point where they want to change. You can't change other people forcibly. You can kill them and stop them from affecting their ill intent on the world, which is, way easier. But anyway. I really like Masamune Dan's inclusion in the movies because it's not poetic justice, but it like serves the narrative. It serves him right in the narrative because he was such a bad dad, and the things that he did to Kuroto, like, I get it why Kuroto wanted to kill him. Like, they just have this awful, like, toxic relationship, and it's interesting to see because he's sicking this, Genm zombie on him and challenging him to escape, but he's giving him the chance. And I'm not saying that means there's a little bit of love or a little bit of fealty or whatever there, but it's just interesting how, I don't know, how the dynamic works between them. And it's like, I don't know, it's almost hurtful and nasty to watch play out, but I don't know, it makes me happy that things aren't that bad between me and anybody I know. I mostly captured this because I think Tom Constantine of Tokusatsu Network is in the background behind this lady in the blue running away. It might not be him, but I think he keeps his hair up pretty short like that. And I know he's been in the background of some Toei Rider stuff, I think, Rider. Anyway, so I really like the God Maximum Mighty, the concept that God Maximum Mighty allows Kuroto to make any game out of any idea he wants to, and how he uses those games as weapons. Just kind of like the, not that it was really foreshadowed by Nico giving the tank game to Taiga, but it's just an interesting concept that, like, in the show, the different games are the different levels, or not levels, but levels too, but they represent the different powers and whatnot that they can have. And it's a really neat idea for a villain, especially one who's so focused on being the game master and on his imagination being like his tool. And really, his imagination always has been his tool to help him conquer and actually do all the nasty stuff he's done. So it's pretty cool. And this light one is like a simple, dumb one, but it's fun. And I can't remember if this is right after he did Meteor Chronicle or not, but I really just wanted to put this up. If you've seen X-Aid, you've seen the Maximum Mighty suit. I just kind of wanted to look at the evil version of the Maximum Mighty suit and just talk about how nuts it is. Like, I don't even know what they're going for with this, but I don't think the suits are ugly. I really want to know, how does the suit actor operate that thing? Like, I guess it's just a bigger, bulkier suit. I hope it's really hollow inside for the most part, and it's like a shell, and it's lightweight for them, because that's that stuff's got to be uncomfortable. And he ends up jumping out of it later, like Emu does, or whatever. Mr. Kamen Rider, I cannot remember his name at the moment. Anyway, later on, or earlier in Xaid, and he's got the same power. That's fun. So then we've got this girl willing to lay down, or to put her life on the line to save her dad. And this is a decent parallel to Sensei, maybe, where she was willing to hurt others, but this lady's willing to potentially sacrifice her life if she can bring her dad back. And that's just really, really sweet. Stuff like this always gets me. It's just, I don't know, the nobility of being willing to give up yourself. And then because of Taiga, I think, or maybe it was Mr. I Can Cut Anything, maybe it was Brave, beating, one of the zombies, her dad comes back and she doesn't have to do that. So, in a way, Taiga's right. Like, the writers should be doing this. I think Kiriya's right. The cool thing about, I talked earlier about how it's too bad we don't have the same, like, the eponymous hero, or like, I was going to say an alternative idea, like if you'd called Kamen Rider Ryuki, or if you called Xaid like Kamen Rider, game sickness or whatever, then you could just have the different doctors taking different tacks, which they do, but like everybody could succeed in their own ways, and like that diversity of tactics causing good outcomes, I think would be interesting to see. I'd be really interested in seeing that. And I mean, Taiga takes his tact. Hiro follows him a little bit in destroying some of the Genms, and then you've got Lazer, who has his own path, and Emu and Poppy and Sensei end up helping out towards the end. But it's really cool that you could have all these different approaches to how to solve the problem, because ultimately I care about, in a weird way, I care about seeing like the world made right. I don't really care who makes it right, in the drama anyway, of the show. And when I think about it, that's basically how I feel about the real world too. So, Sanders 2020? I don't know. Anyway, definitely not. Anyway, so moving forward. So then Masamune escapes, and he's mad at his son. And what's interesting to me... sorry. Having delicious coffee. What's interesting to me is how mad he is at his son for messing with the memory of his wife, the woman he loved, the reason that Kuroto was born. And I get that, man. I get that so hard. Like, I am Kronos in this moment. Well, I don't want to say too much. I'm trying to be a certain type of parent, but it's very hard in some circumstances. And look, I get like how hard this would be on a parent. And that's kind of it. I'm going to stop now. Okay, I mean, so this next screenshot isn't any better. It's basically just Masamune focusing on this, and like, you gotta forgive your kids for what they do, because they're kids, and when they're adults, maybe not so much, but you're always gonna love them. And it's a difficult struggle. And I honestly, I know these two guys are super villains, but it's funny how much they like really touch on the human condition with these guys. And I don't know, I liked it a lot. And, of course, this is just good spectacle. This is what I come to Kamen Rider for. I want the emotional stuff, but I also want the explosions and the fire and the fighting. It's fun. I don't really have much more to say other than, I can't remember the actor's name, but, like, he's something else. And I really like how dramatic his performance is here, because, like, those are hard lines to read. I obviously didn't understand it in Japanese, but to have to say, and to think that like a character would really feel that way, it's pretty awful. And I don't know, he sold it to me. And there's just all this conflict, and it's juicy, and I love the drama again. So there's this guy named Brian Suits. He works for was it Clear Channel? I guess it's iHeartRadio now. I don't know. Anyway, KFI AM 640 in Southern California. Apparently you can hear it from the Rockies to the something else. I don't know. That's from coast to coast. Anyway, he talks about wolves and sheepdog, and and sheep, and it's a military thing because he's a veteran. Anyway, and I'm like super anti-war now, and I was never like pro-war or hawkish really when I was listening to him back in the day, because I've since stopped. I go to other sources for hearing about conflict and whatnot. Anyway, he talks about wolves and sheepdog again, and like, the rest of the people are sheep, the villains or the bad guys in the world are wolves, and the people who fight the wolves are sheepdogs, soldiers, maybe even cops, men like him, and women too. His wife was a cop. So, and not like anyway, doesn't matter. I don't know all the details, so I'm not going to pretend I do. But, Kiriya kind of strikes me as that, like, he is willing to be the necessary evil in the world. Or it's even kind of like Riku from Kingdom Hearts, where he's like, yeah, there's darkness, and, I'm going to deal with that darkness because I've been in the depths of the darkness, and I don't want anyone else to have to face that again. And Kiriya kind of feels the same way, I think. He kind of affects that ethic, or he lives out that, he's been tainted and he can deal with the dark things that he doesn't want others to have to deal with, which is why he lied to Emu and just told him, hey, hang on to my coat for me, I don't want to get dirty. And that's his way of lyingly saying goodbye. And it's because he thinks he has to go deal with Kuroto. And I don't know at that point if his plan was already to just neutralize him, or if he didn't intend to kill him, because somehow Kuroto, at the last minute, ends up saving saving Kiriya and turning him from a bugster into a human. So I don't quite get what happened there, but I still like it. In the moment, after the fact, maybe it doesn't make as much sense. So the logic of this all kind of evades me, I guess. Kuroto was given the opportunity in Zombie Chronicle for people to redeem or bring back their loved ones at the cost of their own life, just because it would be an exciting game, I guess. But at the same time, he'd made this bugster cultivation game, which legitimately would work to use Sensei's gene therapy knowledge and expertise to actually start bringing people back. Was that in case he got defeated? I don't understand why this is happening. But I don't know. I guess it adds an exciting element of her and Poppy looking for them, I guess. I don't know. I like the idea of it. I like that recolor of the bug visor, though, and that's really cool. So there's that. I will not go on an extended rant about the blood feud between TV Nihon and everybody else who isn't TV Nihon. I got these subs through TV Nihon. They keep their seed box full, so I was able to get it even though the movie came out last year, 6 months ago, 8 months ago, whatever. And yeah, that was nice. But this Giri Giri Chambara, I didn't know that that's what that meant. And had I known that in the show, because I'm pretty sure I watched overtime subs. Not that there's anything wrong with. I mean, I like overtime subs. They're quick. They're good. They seem good. And that's not me second guessing. That's just me saying they seem good. I don't know. I'm not a translator. I don't know Japanese. But I like the pun in this, and I love that Kiriya laughs after it because he's like, yeah, I could pretty much die. I'm on the edge of life and death. This is fun. But thanks for including that translator's note like that. TVN. That hit me right here where I live. Anyway, and I just basically wanted to look at the suit, and I don't like something about the face. Or, no, I was going to say something else. His face actually reminds me of, I don't know what he was actually called in the original, but Finster from Power Rangers, from Mighty Morphin, the goat guy. They've got the same face. I should put up I'm not going to, but I should have put up a little comparison, but that's all. It's a neat suit. I like it all right. I don't know, Kiriya's he's got weird suits, man. I don't know what they were thinking when they made those, but whatever. I'm going to complain a little bit about here about how I felt like Poppy was underutilized, and I think it's too bad. I mean, I really don't know what more to say than that. I don't know, what was she supposed to be doing, fighting? I think the idea was, I don't know, were they going to use the bug visor 2 or 3 or whatever that is to stop him somehow, and then that would save everybody, because everybody does get saved when Kiriya defeats him, which is good, but I just don't understand what they're doing here. No, all the weapons don't need to be melee and ranged weapons, but do I like it? Yes, I do. I think he's got axes that he uses as arrow. He puts them together, twin axes that he puts together as a bow and arrow or a power arrow or whatever, Kimberly had, but I don't know. I like it fine. Doesn't bother me. So then, okay, this bothers me, though. She's infected with Genm. Sensei's infected with the Genm virus, and she's become one of these zombies forever, which is, sad for her. I get the stakes for her, especially if Lazer isn't able to defeat... she's the world's hope, so that's gone now. But Poppy People Popo, Asuna here, is running... I believe that's her civilian name. I used it earlier anyway. She's running from her when she can just transform into Kamen Rider Poppy and lay the smackdown.
or like, punch her and then run away. I don't like seeing her in this state. It doesn't make any sense to me. Again, there's kind of a conflict between like, it's okay to kill bad guys and all life is sacred and whatever. But I appreciate the fact that when Kuroto dies, ostensibly here, that there's a weight to it, and I think that's good, because while I think it's okay, like, to kill a bad guy, like, that's the last resort, and it's only in extreme circumstances, and I don't think Kiriya was happy to do it. I think he felt like he could bear the burden, and that's why he volunteered to do it. And I don't know, the way they juxtapose this flower, which they showed a couple times during the fight, and his driver left over as his remains, is, I don't know, it's beautiful and it's sweet and sentimental, and I like it. So, okay, so Sensei's here. She's been redeemed. She no longer looks overly flirtatious or like anyway, she's still dressed similarly, but the way she's carrying herself, I find it very funny that now that she's a hero, like, all her sex appeal is gone. Or, I mean, I'm not saying she's unattractive. I'm not saying her attractiveness level is any different, but the way she's being framed is very different. And I don't know that I like that. Like, why do villains or villainesses need to be evil and sexual? Like, that's never made any sense to me, and I don't like it. But gosh, I was sure happy to see Kiriya waking up here, because I thought they might kill him again, and it's really funny that it turns out that it's the exact opposite. And again, I don't know where it happened that Kuroto, like, saved his life and like, had him rebuilt as a human as opposed to a bugster. But that's interesting, and I don't feel like, because they did a good job in the Palette Poppy movie of making bugsters, they're people too, bugsters are people too, but I don't think Kiriya becoming human again is like a rejection of that or like betrays that sentiment at all. I think him becoming human again is kind of like, it's letting the bugster chapter of his life be over, and it's letting him move on to a new stage, and and that's pretty much it. So overall, I really like these movies. They were a lot of fun, and I don't know, I'm enjoying talking about Ryder here, and I think I'm going to keep doing it. So that's all I have to say for now, and I don't know. The game never ends, and maybe neither will my Kamen Rider discussions, at least for a while.
Thank you for your time and attention. I'd love to do more of this. Like, share, and subscribe to cheer me on, or give me feedback to make me stronger and smarter. Visit luminousbeings.blog for more. I link everything I do there, so if you want to comment, that's a place where I'll definitely see it.